So on today's bump, I am joined by the beautiful Anna Williamson. You are a TV presenter, radio presenter. You have a podcast. I was going to say you're a podcaster, but that's not right.
I think
she's a
podcaster. Yeah.
And you're an author.
Jack of all trades, master and ungeorge.
No, you have the string to a lot of bows. String.
That's it.
Yeah.
String a lot of bows.
Yeah.
You're doing good.
Yeah, and she's also a mummy, and I do love my mummies, I do. And I wanted to invite you here today because there is a topic that I have not yet touched on, which is mental health pre and post baby. And you, I feel, have a lot to say about this subject. We've been chatting non-stop today. We filmed for Anna's podcast. Hopefully it will be out when this video's out, so click somewhere and you'll be able to
click
go
somewhere,
through,
swipe up, do all of that.
Do all of that,
Whatever
and you'll be able to listen to that too. So we've just been chatting, and it seems like we've had similar feelings. However, so for me, which I've talked about before, had the thought of, what have I done? Have I made a terrible mistake? And you did too, didn't you? We actually talked about this when we very first met.
Yes.
So tell me, what happened? Did you feel like a terrible mother like me?
Yes, and I think and thank you for being so honest about it. So when I met you, and I'm a few months sort of in front with my little boy, but and it was just so lovely and refreshing when you said it to me, and I could see a very new mother in you. And I think it just takes all of us mums that when we've been there, we just almost want to. I mean, we'd never met each other before, but I just went, like this weird stalker woman. I was like giving her a book, going, "Look, just take my book, you'll feel fine. It's gonna be fine. I promise you, it's gonna be fine. I know it can feel like absolute dog shit right now sometimes,
but you're gonna be okay. You're gonna be all right."
But I think that's it, and I think, well, I know that my baby was as for many people, and I know with you, I wanted a baby since I was 15 years old. I got pregnant at 35, so it's a hell of a long time.
It's a long time.
A long time. Decided to have a baby, much wanted baby. Yeah, I didn't anticipate quite how much I would hate pregnancy. Which there's still a part of me that hates saying that, because I just felt really let down really by the whole experience. And then I had Enzo, and it was a pretty rubbish birth. And the overwhelming, just all the hormones and all the mental health which I've previously suffered all came back with a vengeance. And I remember in those sort of first few days and weeks, within my own thoughts, I couldn't possibly tell anyone about this kind of evil, witchy thoughts I was having. I thought, I've got this seriously wrong. I've made a mistake here. I actually don't know if I can be a good mother, or if I deserve this baby. Have I made a massive miscalculation here?
Yeah, and I shouldn't have this baby. And this, it was almost like, oh God, I've bitten off more than I can chew. And I've never actually said this to anyone. I got kind of haunted by something that my mum always used to sort of rib me a little bit about. Like as a kid, I used to be one of these kids that would try all different hobbies and sports and ballet, piano, and then give it up. And she always used to call it, it's one of Anna's 5-minute wonders. I've actually never told anyone this, but it was in this weird sort of fog of postnatal whatever, it kind of taunted me. And I remember thinking, oh my God, is this the ultimate 5-minute wonder? Like a serious 5-minute wonder.
Like, have I wanted this baby, but has it always been that fantasy of having a baby? And now the reality I've got him is, I don't know if I'm cut out for
Now I've got to be an adult.
Now I've got to
actually look after a life.
And I've got to not just think about me. And that was the big point.
Yeah. So obviously you've suffered with anxiety before having Enzo. When you were pregnant, did you think to yourself, God, I hope I don't get postnatal depression. Am I going to get postnatal? Was that a big worry for you throughout your pregnancy?
Yeah, it was. And there's a lot to be said for, because I was worrying about it, how much of that did I actually bring on, because I was sort of fearing it and almost creating it. But the stats actually say that, I'm sorry to get a bit boring with statistics, but anyone that's suffered with a mental health condition, which I have, I've been diagnosed for over 10 years with generalised anxiety disorder and panic disorder. There's a 1 in 2 chance that you can be affected with your postnatal mental health.
Right, that's quite high.
It's pretty flipping high. And I also recognised that within my pregnancy, that my feelings of anxiety were coming back tenfold. I had to come off, again, this is a really taboo thing, but I think really important. A lot of people another stat, over 13 million of us are taking antidepressants, so anti-anxiety pills.
It's a lot. I think everyone knows somebody that's got depression or anxiety or... Yeah, obviously Danny, he talks about it, he's got anxiety.
That's it. So it's 1 in 6 in the country that are taking some form of medication for their mental health. And I was taking a low dosage before I got pregnant. And I got pregnant and then suddenly realised, I should have perhaps taken some advice on this, because there's a bit of conflict around whether you should be taking antidepressants when you get pregnant. Now, it's really important that people do go to their doctor and discuss this. Don't just come off them, but talk about. And some are compatible. Sometimes it is more dangerous to come off them for the mental health than not, if you know what I mean. So you have to be individually assessed. My GP recommended me to come off them pretty damn quick.
Right. Yeah.
So I phased out within 2 weeks. So by 6 weeks pregnant, I was clean.
You were free.
And I've never had an issue with taking medication. I believe it's there for a reason.
Oh, I do. 100%.
And if you need it,
you need it. You need it.
Exactly. But throughout the pregnancy, I was feeling my old anxiety disorder coming back. But at the time, because I've never been pregnant before, I thought, is this just how pregnancy feels?
Right.
But actually,
it's just the normal feelings when you're pregnant.
Exactly. And when we spoke earlier, and I'm sure you've spoken on your series, that you actually liked pregnancy. I didn't really enjoy much of pregnancy, and that was mainly to do with the anxiety disorder. I now know that was coming back in. It was just the general feeling of just worrying about everything and anything, a general feeling of, oh, here's another day I've got to get through, and that's sort of how it can feel and manifest.
It's so interesting to hear that, because I can imagine so many mums to be are watching this and thinking, oh my gosh, thank God, thank God someone's saying that, because that's how I feel. And like we were saying before, people don't talk about the negative feelings because you're so worried that you're going to be judged. Like, it's a constant thought, God, I'm going to be judged for giving my baby a dummy. We were talking about this, putting our baby on reins, or
childcare,
whatever. Or getting a nanny, or if you want to do that, fine. If you've got the money to get a nanny if you want one. Like, whatever. It's your life. It's your baby. Do what's right for you. So talking about, you had we've not really said this, but you had postnatal depression, postnatal anxiety.
And birth trauma as well.
And birth
trauma.
I had them all. Well, you're such a well-rounded human being. I am surprised, but you've obviously dealt with it very, very well. And got the right help, I hope.
Yes, that's the key.
But for me, I struggled when I first had Cooper, and even now I struggle with when I'm just mum. Like, we've talked about this, haven't we, that it's hard when you just become a mum and an udder and pretty much nothing else, a pillow, and you lose your identity a little bit. And I've struggled with that, and I've had days when I've felt really quite down, but I did know I wasn't depressed. I just knew I wasn't. I knew it was my hormones. How did you decipher between just it being your hormones and going, actually, there's a bit of a problem here?
Brilliant question. I think it's a really key thing, just to highlight. It was when I was feeling so overwrought. It was the anxiety mainly that was creeping in. So anxiety and depression is quite commonly experienced together at the same time, and it can be quite difficult to determine which one's fueling the other. But after a very long and quite traumatic birth with Enzo, it was, the way I sort of describe it, was like the plug socket had been pulled out of anything of my feelings. I was just sort of numb and in a fog.
Were you? Right. And you were just like...
there was just nothing there. And that was really scary. And any mum that feels that, I just want to reassure you that it's okay. And it's actually a lot more normal than you think. And just get help. Don't sit in silence.
Don't sit there and deal with it.
Don't just tell someone. And it can be the hardest thing, because everyone's... And it's the worst thing as well, because when you're feeling this numbness, you've then got people going, you must be so happy. And actually you're thinking... Actually, no, and now you're saying that, it's making me feel even worse.
Of course.
I genuinely thought, oh my God, I'm actually really sick here. But I think, to answer the question, because mental health can be so individual how it can manifest. So speaking from my personal experience, it was when I didn't really feel anything for anyone, including my son.
Yeah.
And that was a worry. And that can gradually, you know, that is quite normal. We've discussed it too.
Yeah.
But it was actually going backwards on. So if you're starting to creep gradually in the right direction, and we all have down days, and that's really important to recognise.
Yeah.
You don't need a label, you don't need a diagnosis necessarily. But if it's starting to last longer than a few days a week, creeping into 2-3 weeks, or consistently, I would say, because we have down days, 1 or 2 down days in a row, okay. But if we slightly have better ones, then great.
Yeah.
So if those days start to become consecutive, and certainly going back ways on, that is when it's time to recognise it. And I started out struggling, and then I felt like I was drowning day on day. And then you throw in sort of a bit of sleep deprivation. I was having intrusive thoughts, which again is a very taboo topic, and people get really scared about those. I had thoughts about dropping my son down the stairs or throwing him out of a window.
I think that's very normal. Like,
very normal,
I do have thoughts like that. Like, God, what if I walk down these stairs now?
And he fell.
Yeah. And I broke his neck.
Yeah.
Like, you know, what if I step out into that road and a car comes and hits this buggy?
Yeah.
And they go first, don't they?
Exactly. Yeah. And it's a very normal thing to feel, and I think we scare ourselves by those thoughts, but people just need to remember that it does actually come from a primal instinct to protect, actually. So it's actually kind of a good thing, because we don't act on them. We haven't acted on them.
No.
So that's
We're not throwing
that's
that
good. No, exactly. And we have to recognise that. But I would say, if consecutively you're starting to feel bad, worse, struggling to bond, lots of crying. I mean, we talk about the day 3-4 letdown. Floods of tears, all the snot's coming out.
Yeah, I cried over a nappy.
Oh, yeah, we all cry over something, don't we? It's ridiculous. I cried because my midwife had, who was amazing. She wasn't on the shift today. We were discharged, and I didn't say goodbye to her. And she'd found me on Facebook, and she sent me this private message on Facebook, just saying how. I know the birth didn't go the way you wanted it, but you're amazing. You're a super mom, and even now, and I remember reading that and just, and it all came out. I mean, it all came out. But it was in the subsequent weeks, and I'd say certainly between week 1 and week 5 postpartum. The anxiety was so bad, I wasn't able to sleep at all. I was hallucinating and hearing babies crying that weren't my own. I was struggling to feed. The anxiety was so high that it was blocking my milk ducts as well. So my milk was like water.
It's mad, isn't it? How things that go on your brain affect your whole body.
Everything, yeah, everything. And for me, actually, one of the best decisions and the hardest decision was to stop breastfeeding at 10 days old. And this was the absolute kick in the tits, quite literally. But I actually, so many people struggle with breastfeeding. And I actually, it was one bloody thing I was good at. I could do it, and he latched on, and we were doing
you
well.
Were doing it,
We were doing well. It was still hard. Everything's leaking and spraying. You haven't got a clue how to control them, have you, to start with?
Absolutely not.
But it was working, and I was enjoying it. But I wasn't enjoying the anxiety that it was making me feel. It was the responsibility that no one else in this world can feed this baby right now other than me, and that made me feel more anxious. And there's the anxiety fuel that made me resent the baby, because I was like, this is your fault that I can't get better and get well and get some sleep. So I talked to my doctor. Again, this is why it's really important. I went to my doctor. I went, it's back with a vengeance. The anxiety disorder is walloping me badly. And so we talked it through. Talking therapy is super important. And we worked out that actually what is best overall for mum and baby would be that I went back onto medication, which would mean, because of certain medications aren't compatible with breast milk, I would have to stop the formula feed. So, and I've never been against formula feed anyway. I've always been quite open to whatever. Whatever works.
That's another thing again. Yeah. If it's right for you, it's right for you. If it's not, it's not.
Exactly. And I think we always start perhaps with what we would like in an ideal world.
Yeah.
But then obviously change and be open to other suggestions. And it was more my husband that had the problem with me stopping breastfeeding.
Right.
Because again, perhaps the lack of control he felt over this situation.
Yeah.
But actually, he really supported it, and we went on to formula. And actually, that was a huge part of my anxiety reducing instantly. Was suddenly I could go, thank God, he will take a bottle, he'll take it from my mum and from my husband, which means 1 or 2 of these feeds a day, I can rest.
Yeah.
I can get my head a bit more together. And that actually helped in my bonding. Because
Did it really? Yeah. That's so interesting.
Really
and that's really, really nice to hear, because I can imagine there's a lot of new mums out there that think that you stopping breastfeeding could potentially be even more detrimental to the bonding of you and your child. So for you to say that actually helps,
it was actually the reverse.
Is amazing.
Thank you. Well, it was actually, I find it a really positive thing for me, and it was a really positive thing for my husband, because actually, I know we talked earlier in my podcast, but the guys, if you're breastfeeding, are often a bit redundant in those early weeks because they can't do it. But when my husband, it was almost like Superman, hooray, right, he'll take a bottle from both of us. So my husband got that opportunity at the 2 a.m. to do the bottle, and he learned very quickly how to get that formula right temperature and everything else, and how to do the burping. So he felt very involved, and we were encouraged to both skin to skin bottle feed just to help with that. And then you position your baby as well, so they are as close to your breast as possible. But actually, for anyone that, it's such a contentious issue, bottle feed breast, but actually, for me, suffering with postnatal anxiety and depression, being able to bottle feed my son actually made me bond with him better, because the anxiety was released.
It was, you had a bit of a break.
And a break.
Thanks so much for watching, Bump. If you want to watch the playlist, then click here, and if you want to watch last week's episode, then click here.